Hello, everyone. I am Selkuth Mind. You can call me Sel. You just heard me on the interview. I am now here on the host mic, and I am very excited. We're about to start the RPG block, also what I've been calling the RPG Limit Break staff takeover block, which is, I'm very, very excited for that. We're going to be starting off with a run that I am extremely excited for. You are not prepared for this run. It is Ease 9 Monstrum Nox being run by Ghost Kumo. Why don't you show us what's in this wild run?
As Sel said, I'm joined by a good friend of mine by the name of Jaddo. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bud.
Yep, I'm Jaddo. I also run multiple East games, including this one.
Yes. So this is currently the last game in the series in terms of chronology. There was 10, but they moved that one to earlier because they tell these games out of order. We'll kind of introduce the game a little bit more as the run gets going, but we're gonna get just started really quick here. So we're gonna run on easy. Higher difficulties almost don't matter for this game for several reasons. But I'll go ahead and get started and count you down when I say go. 3, 2, 1, go. So cool thing is, we have cutscene skips. Anyways, so we're starting the game off in medias res. Our red-haired protagonist here is a now 24-year-old man by the name of Adol. He is an adventurer, goes around the world finding mystical objects and getting in all sorts of trouble. He has been involved in multiple shipwrecks, and the funny thing about this game is that we're breaking out of prison. Turns out he knows how to pick a lock in prison because he's been in prison several times at this series. It's just kind of like one of those kind of silly things with this series chronology. But yeah, so this is a city called Balduke. We came here, we're going to get to a flashback that shows how we got here. But we got here and we're immediately thrown in jail because Adol's reputation precedes him at this point in the series. He's normally kind of a silent protagonist, but he's got interesting little bits of personality here. So I just picked up a sword. Oops. I can do what's called an attack roll cancel, where instead of rolling, I attack into a roll, and my character kind of flops like a fish. This scene right here introduces us to our Monstrum powers, which is sort of the gimmick of this game. All of our characters become these mid-2000s OC-type characters. In Adol's case, he becomes a character known as the Crimson King, and he gets his power called the Crimson Line, which is a dash to specific set points on the map, which is what allows me to do those kind of little zips like that. Also have a double jump. Sadly, they removed this in 10. Makes me very sad. We're coming up on the boss here, and it's going to get into a tutorial for combat. So, Jaddo, if you want to explain how the combat system works while I'm trying to dispatch this frog thing, please take it away.
So we mainly just have our normal, normal attack chain. We also have access to sort of skills that we use our SP for. So if we flash guard right before an attack, it will give us a crit buff and a bunch of SP, and we're basically going to be utilizing that to get as much damage out as possible.
I ran out of SP there for a second. Oh well. Yep. So
we
flash guards
also have a dodge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So the dodge roll, if you time your attack well, you also get what's called a flash move, which gives you just a couple seconds of bullet time, as we call it. Just time slows down. Flash guards, a couple seconds of immunity, about 15% bonus damage on a mini crit. So very good to get used to. Let's see if we crash. For whatever reason, this cutscene trigger here seems to crash the game more than any other in the game. All right, so here's a flashback.
I got scared for that.
We arrive in town. We're about to get an inspection, so we hide a fork under the bed. And grab the fork, pick a lock, because we're really good at that. And we're breaking out of prison. This whole town is this kind of corrupt prison city, where people get thrown in regardless of whether or not they've actually committed crimes or, met due process. Which is sort of the backdrop for the story of this game. And then we're given this power called the Monstrum form. I don't exactly remember the name of it, but while it does grant us power, it does also lock us into the city. So we can't really escape right now. So jumping upstairs is fastest. Looks really funny, and I kind of love it. Alright. So, Adol, for the first time, takes a disguise, which means that he is no longer Adol the Red, because his distinct red hair is kind of his character giveaway, which is a little bit of a funny thing to say in an anime-esque game where characters routinely have hair colors different from what are typical in the real world. Alright, so this right here is this game's raid missions. There's a few of these since in this series, starting with East 8. Basically, we get summoned to this other world called the Grimwald Nox, and we have to kill off these like hordes of enemies in these like I guess you could call them tower defense type missions. They're not really particularly good, but this is the only one we have to do in the run because the game is so broken. So I'm just using a downward slash attack and then my main skill. Ideally I get flash guards, which replenish my SP, but the enemies here are just kind of, when they die, they also give enough SP that you can kind of just spam it and turn yourself into a buzzsaw. It is really hard to get a rank other than S on this little tutorial mission here, and that's going to grant me a life elixir, which I'm going to sell in a bit, so yeah. In the story, we get summoned to these kind of pocket dimensions, which have been secretly like attacking the city of Balduke, and so we need to protect the city. And that's kind of like the trade-off for our power, is we get granted this form, but we're not allowed to leave. So we need to figure out how to solve this city's problems with all the, you know, Grimwald Nox, and how to actually get our freedom. Anyways,
Jaddo played nice there.
Yes, he did. I was actually able to get perfect flash guards on him to maximize damage. Alright, so that's that. S rank, I get my elixir. Oh, come on. I have like a particular way to skip cutscenes where I kind of rub my thumb across circle and X on my PS5 controller, but unfortunately, sometimes it's like, it doesn't read the inputs correctly, so I just like sitting there for a solid 2 seconds trying to skip a cutscene. Alright, so we're into Chapter 2. Chapter 1 and 2 are very structured. There's not really any room to break out of them. But the game just breaks in Chapter 2. And so any attempts to try and explain story context are more or less going to go out the window. I will try to fill you in on the important beats, but yeah. Alright. So here's the point where we realize we cannot leave town because these big kind of purple barriers in the way. So the structure of this game is that it has 9 chapters and we need to like open everything up. With each chapter, there's like sections that you can do. You like clear off, you'll see on the top left it says 0 Nox. If you get that to 100, you unlock kind of a special Grimwald, you know, tower defense mission. And that's kind of what lets you unlock parts of the city. And you're supposed to do that, but as evidenced by this run being a 33-minute world record, we're not going to do that. But I'll explain the how and the why very shortly. Talk to you. Now I can fast travel.
Let me know when you got a moment for a donation.
You got time for one. I'm just running around talking to NPCs.
Awesome. We have $50 to Little Warriors from Flexel, who says, "What a cool looking crew on tonight's schedule. Good luck all."
Thanks, Flexel. Fellow Limit Break staff member and founder of the event. So he showed up for the 4 of us back to back. Yeah, so the next few runners, myself, Sid, Vanny, and Kyos isn't like Kyos is like on the interview team as well, so he's part of the staff Discord as well. So the 4 of us are all just like the Limit Break crew, and Cell now has a staff badge too. So it's just kind of the reunion after last week.
Just Limit Break takeover.
Yep. So here I'm going to actually warp to the center of town, and there's an east part of town that I'm not supposed to be able to get to because there's guards in the way called the Shantytown, but I'm just going to do a trick here called Shantytown Early. So Jaddo, if you want to kind of like explain what's up with this.
if you play this casually, we're supposed to like get a tutorial for like how to get like Nox with some of the Nox gates and like another raid, and then go through the sewers to get here. But by carefully like jumping onto the chimney and getting over this barrier, we can pretty much access Shantytown early.
And the key thing to note about that, so I'm just going this for 20 Nox. I don't actually need to get the 100, but I do want to get 20 because any I left over get turned into a resource called Twilight Shards. But anyway, since we skip the sequence of this game, basically everything, like every roadblock, doesn't exist anymore. So we can go into the sewers. We're supposed to get an ability to run up walls, but I don't have that, so I got to do a little bit of a creative jumping and camera manipulation here. There we go. So this gets us into the sewers, which we're supposed to come into a lot in this game. Called Cloaca Maxima, named for the like first great sewer system of Paris, I believe. There's another little sequence break here I can do with a Crimson Line point by just camera manipulation. I keep hitting the water. Yep, I meant to do a double jump. Sadly, the really cool dungeon theme doesn't play here, but that's just a consequence of skipping in here early without the ability to run up walls. We'll get that later, though. We just completely story sequence break by getting in here. And the cool thing is the boss of the dungeon doesn't even exist yet, so we can just skip hit. Sorry, you were gonna say, Jaddo?
The main thing about these sort of, so the main things about these like Crimson Line posts is if your camera can see it and there's no obstruction from your camera, then you can grapple onto it instead of it being based on your like character's line of sight.
Yeah, you can even go through walls with that, which is very important, as we'll see later. Alright, so here we are in Baldur's Prison. We're supposed to come in here a whole bunch, but normally it's like sections are blocked off by guards, so it's fairly regimented in like how you can get through here. But because we got here early, nothing is like loaded. In fact, even like entire sections of the dungeon of the castle aren't even really loaded. So I'm gonna do a jump here, and then I'm gonna fall off to this side here, do a couple rolls, and then we're gonna end up in the West Wing Depths. This isn't an area of the dungeon we're supposed to get to until Chapter 4, but a lot of stuff's not loaded. If you see me doing attacks on the ground there, it's because I messed up my attack roll canceling. The timing on it's a little tricky. Anyways, this is like the end of Chapter 4. This is a scenario where we're supposed to get a character by the name of Doll, who has a really cool theme here. We'll see her in a little bit, but what I'm going to do is carefully make my way up here, pick up an item here called Blue Bandana, which reduces the amount of SP skills cost by about 20%. I'm going to go to this floor panel, and Jaddo, I'm going to need you to explain this because this is complicated.
Okay, so when we step on the floor panel, when we pause and then open the map, there is a couple of frames between the menu closing and the map opening where the game actually plays. So by opening the map twice and warping, it keeps that state where the door is closing, and if we hold map on our keyboard, it will spam that key multiple times, and it will put us in a glitch state of Baldur's City where any cutscene trigger we walk into will just activate. And of course, all of the barriers were gone.
Yeah, we deleted all the barriers and just now have
and I believe we accessed a cutscene that was in Chapter 5.
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah, it's Chapter
Which
5.
Is very late.
Just much later. Cool thing about it is we can't like advance the story unless we do something that like forces it to happen. But right there is actually a treasure chest that is spawns at the end of it triggers the end of Chapter 4. So now we're in this weird state where like we triggered the end of Chapter 2 by ending Chapter 4. So the game's kind of like both in Chapter 5 and 3 at the same time. So there I get my 20 Twilight Shards. So the building that we, staked out at and hit out at the beginning, we decided that we're going to hide in town in plain sight by turning it into a bar. So this is the Dandelion. It's sort of our hub area. We don't come here too often, but it is useful for the run. So here I'm going to convert into 3 resources, 3 anguished tears, 4 thick hides, 4 sturdy shells, and then I need only 3 razor claws, but it's faster to menu to max it out. So here we're going to talk to a bunch of NPCs that were supposed to break out of prison, except for Dogi. Dogi already broke himself out. Actually, I don't even think he got arrested in the first place. He was just kind of like interrogated. These are the fellas that work at our bar. They kind of all know the deal. Anyway, you'll see more of this girl later. And by later, I mean very soon. So we're now in both Chapter 5 and 3. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, like, actually get the abilities that I need to beat the game. So I'm gonna go and do the floor panel trick again. I need to wait for it to get down to a certain point. What is going on here? I'm gonna save and load just to despawn enemies, because the game was just kind of lagging there for me. That's not good. What is going on? Game is acting really strangely. Okay.
While you figure that out, just to remind folks, we do have that incentive for the next round, the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, to do that bonus boss fight. We're $25 away from meeting it. ! Donate in chat to get that incentive met.
Alright, so once again, triggering a cutscene of Chapter 5. These are all of our posse. They haven't joined us because we skipped everything. But here we're actually going to get the Chapter 5 party member. Her name is Yufa, also known as the Raging Bull. She comes in at level 31, which is nice because Adult is level 35, or is only level 5, not 35. Alright, so gonna work back to the center of town. So I have everything I need to beat the game, more or less. I just need to get, like, the resources to make it faster and, like, efficient. So there's an NPC here. I'm gonna sell off the elixirs that I picked up, because those give a ton of money. And then I'm going to buy a bunch of black figs, which are a revival item that revives me with 100 HP. The fact that it's a very low amount is actually very important. This NPC here gives me a an item called the Violet Glove, which is it enables poison. This is one of the very few RPG runs you will ever see where poison is like an essential part of the run. So, I'm gonna buy those because those give me a bunch of EXP, and then we're gonna once again do the floor panel trick. So I have Doll in my party now. She's kind of a ghost party member. If I accidentally menu incorrectly, she gets deleted. She can't equip anything or use skills, but she does give an attack bonus for being in the party with Adol. And that attack bonus comes in handy quite a bit. So once again, I'm gonna hold the map button down. Screen's gonna go kind of blurry. Gonna warp to the center of town, and the thing about the end game of this game is it's actually in Balduke. That was not what I meant to do, but it's fine. And it's the final barrier you're supposed to unlock. I actually did this wrong. Whoopsies. This is fine. This is fine. It's a good thing I caught that. Actually, I would have caught it anyway. Anyways, so I'm actually supposed to go over here, and this is a tutorial for Raging Bull's overworld ability called Valkyrie Hammer, which breaks objects. By unlocking that, I unlock every other ability of the game, which includes the ability to hover. Or every ability thus far. There's one party member you get later, but that ability doesn't matter. So get the ability to see invisible objects, run up walls, glide, and break things. Let's try that again. You have to do this like sequence of inputs fairly quickly.
Yes. Yeah, so as soon as you open the map a second time, it starts the door like rising up, and if it hits the top too quickly, then it just ends the trick.
Yeah, it's like specific to how the floor panel of that works. Anyways, that's a trick we'll see a little bit more later. So Doll is not very good for combat, but she does have the fastest attack roll cancel, so you'll see me doing a fair bit of movement with her. Okay, so I'm gonna use that. Be careful with my menuing here because I don't want to delete Doll from existence, and then make sure I have that equipped. And we're gonna just trigger endgame, which is just at the graveyard here. It's supposed to be like the final section you unlock. But this is just the end. This is just now chapter 9. So you're gonna see a lot of spinning to win. Anyways,
We're actually very, very underleveled for this fight.
yeah, so this is where the poison comes in handy. So you're looking for the little blotch and blotch kind of meter underneath an enemy's health bar. That indicates that they're poison, and when it's red, it means they're hit with the most poison. There's like 5 waves of enemies here, and we go from level 31 to 47 in this graveyard. So the key thing I want to do is make sure that I activate Boost, which is this game's kind of like super mode. From there, you can use your finisher skill. The voice lines are going to get obnoxious. Like, it's just how these things go. But this is the most effective way to apply poison because it just gets the most ticks of attack off. Every level heals us, so that helps us tank all this stuff. The other thing is that boost gives me like a ton of armor, as does using skills. So go into boost there. Try and... yeah, because I'm doing no damage to like most of these big enemies, but the poison does a lot of the work. Anyways, you're going to be hearing a lot of round and round and take this, and Valkyrie Hammer. So, Cell, this is probably going to be your best time to chime in.
Awesome, because we have a new incentive that has just opened. That is for the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission run that's coming up right after this. It is an incentive to view the Yuffie transformation cutscene. Wutai's greatest ninja legend is going to leap into action with style, grace, and an amazing cutscene all her own that we'll get to watch if we meet this incentive. The goal for that is $40, which is very achievable. It's going to need to be met about halfway into that run, so there's not a ton of time for that. That will come up very quickly. This is not a long run, and Final Fantasy VII is not a long run either. We do also have that boss fight as well, with about $25 left to meet that for Final Fantasy VII.
Alright, so we're on to the final wave here, and there's this like big kind of fish-looking dude who is by far the most annoying enemy here. You like resist poison, and he loves to warp away from the other guys, so trying to like get poison consistently applied here is just annoying. Ideally, I'd like to not use my boost for this part. I've gained enough levels that I can kind of face tank everything with my skills.
And saving boost will actually help coming up after this.
Yep. Okay, so I was able to get 2 stacks of poison on him. That's more than I usually get.
This is where the RNG can kind of be a bit of a pain.
Yeah,
since you have to proc it 3 times to get the most damage.
Yeah, this game does not have a lot of RNG in it, but like this is the most volatile element of randomness to the run. There we go. Level up. All right. So next we're getting into a sort of Grimwald scenario again, but this time we're kind of on the hunt rather than like tower defense. So there's 3 waves of enemies being guarded by these big purple barriers. And we need to kill all of the enemies right in front of them. Thankfully, none of the other guys along the way are necessary. I'm sort of a gremlin when it comes to playing this game, that I intentionally make these parts as annoying as possible because repeated voice lines are just the funniest thing to me as somebody who's something of a fan of Xenoblade. Ooh, I got lucky there. I got the NPC bonus to make it so all skills cost 0. So during these tower defense sections, you can get some NPC bonuses. Those are also random and tend to be nice little perks, but not super important. The sort of sequence of timing for this does have a little bit of skill and finesse to it, of like knowing how to chain your attacks together, but it is definitely kind of repetitive. The annoying thing is we use a similar skill in East 10, and given I ran that at Limit Break like a week and a half ago, like there's some amount of muscle memory for the timing for that, which is a lot quicker. So this big spinny guy is kind of like hard to poison, so if I can get any poison stacks on him, that would be really handy. That was nice and quick. That was a really quick section, especially because I carry my my boost into it. So I intentionally switch off party members so that I can start this dungeon off with boost, because I move a little bit faster. So I actually don't do attack roll cancels when I'm here. So Jaddo, if you want to explain extended hovers, what I'm doing here.
So, this ability, like Hunter's Descent, if you swap and roll at the sort of similar time, it will actually gain a tiny bit of height, and if you swap out at the peak, you'll just constantly gain height, and you can go very, very far distances, but while using very minimal stamina.
Yeah, so the descent drains stamina.
Quite tough.
Descent just drains your stamina quite quickly, but this just kind of allows us to get it borderline infinitely. I'm gonna make a save here. Okay. So I need to get that angle, and then you gonna explain the clip?
Okay, so this is a bit similar to the pressure plate, where we use the map to buffer our way through. So we use Crimson Line and pause on the same frame, and then when we use the map, it is slowly going to advance that to the point that we are actually out inside the wall, and then we will save and load, and that just cancels the rest of the Crimson Line, so we can get out of bounds easy. And now we are just going to fly all the way to the end of this.
Yep, so this actually only saves like 20 seconds, is the funny thing, but like it's also one of the more difficult tricks to learn starting off.
Like getting optimal like flight is quite difficult. Normally we'd have to go all the way down here, open like a bunch of gates, and then climb up a big tower.
So the key thing is I have, you know, swap and roll bound to the same button. And that causes my characters to kind of suspend in midair a little bit. And so that's how that is able to work, and now I'm able to get that extra distance.
We do have to be like careful with our stamina, because if it fully depletes, we have to wait to it to fully regenerate before we can use it again. We'll try and save just a sliver and then start swapping to recover.
Yeah, so next up, I can actually... so the thing that we're supposed to do here is get into that center barrier, like that barrier in the center there. But we're supposed to like go to these 3 sections off to the side and fight like a boss in each of them to unlock the path to the final boss. Of course, we can just Crimson Line clip our way through that barrier as well, but we don't really have a consistent way to deal damage to the final boss. So we need to get ourselves a nice, strong final weapon. So this part's just movement, so you got a moment, Cell.
Fantastic. I'd love to remind folks about one of our partners for this event. You can enjoy Prevent-A-Thon in additional languages. We are joined by Japanese Restream, which is a channel dedicated to restreaming RTA events such as GDQ and RPGLB in Japanese. You can view their coverage of this event by going to twitch.tv/Japanese_Restream or by typing !Restream in chat. We are very grateful for having them join us for this event.
I believe Bayer is doing the restream commentary. Last I checked the schedule, he has the record in this game and is kind of just cracked at every game he runs. So huge shoutouts to him, both for like a lot of the work he's done paving the way for these games and just being like a beast. All right, so I'm gonna do another extended hover here. See if I have the stamina for it. I think I do. Nope. All right. So I'll do the backup here. It's just like, it's kind of being janky right now. This is fine. I kind of keep an eye on my stamina here. And now we're going to warp back to the Dandelion, our little bar. Our little slice of paradise, if you will. Anyways, these kids that we're supposed to save at Chapter 2, they're sitting on nothing because their stuff hasn't loaded. But this kid's the son of a blacksmith, and he gives... you can talk to him to create accessories and stuff, but he also, in the end game, can create the best weapons of the game. So... Okay. Just really trying to make sure I don't mismenu this. Craft legendary weapon. Make it for Yufa. Okay. Alright, next thing is make sure that I get the weapon on her, that she has no armor on, and that she equips the War King's Cape, which I picked up in the final dungeon. The War King's Cape gives you a little bit of a flat strength bonus, but more importantly, it scales your attack damage based on your health bar. Let me try this clip again. 2, 3, 4, 5. And that clips us through. So War King's Cape gives me up to a 120% bonus when I am at 1 HP and scales basically from there. I kill these guys for just a little bit of extra EXP. And, also gives me a boost. So now we're coming up to the final boss. That was, according to my timer, 31.5 minutes. For a game that normally takes about 30-ish hours. For casual players. I did not need that, but whatever. Anyways, on to the final boss, and he's kind of a chump, to be honest. Because the way this game works, your skills just regenerate SP really quickly, and then, like, boost. Like, boost, you can also use an extra skill. I haven't been using extra skill yet, but,
being more powerful than the gods? I like the sound of that.
But, Oop, that was not what I meant to do. So he's gonna attack a bunch of times. I'm gonna intentionally take damage here. That was not what I wanted to do, but whatever. I'll just blow the... I'll just blow this extra skill now. So I'm gonna try and intentionally take damage here. And the thing about this game is, like, based on the way damage scales, I'm able to use boost here, and then that gives me, like, enough SP that I can immediately use, I'm, like, blanking on what the 64 SP skill is, the spin to win. You might accidentally see me switching characters here and there. Every game in this series I have a slightly different control scheme for, so some muscle memory for another game might accidentally leak in. But yes, so this fight here is really just 3 minutes of just spamming extra skill and spin, and occasionally Valkyrie Hammer. Take that.
Yeah, the good thing about this extra skill is this boss likes to move a lot, and keeping up with him is
Oops, that was
quite
the wrong
difficult.
time for that. Whoopsies. I was supposed to do that before the fight. So problem is I have R2 and R1 bound to be my extra skill use, but R1 is my guard button for East 10 because I just couldn't keep it on triangle, which is what I have it on for every other game. So you might actually see me switching characters here and there, just as I've been trying to like weed out my muscle memory from another game.
I keep having issues going from East 10 to East 8.
Yeah.
East 10 has like 2 different skill buttons, and it's just
So
so confusing.
East 9, they kind of messed up, and they made stuff just generate SP and boost meters so frequently. And the thing about boost is the thing about boost and extra skills is they're just so like powerful. Sorry, my chair likes to sing. They're so powerful, and just like the fact that you can just spam both makes this fight kind of a joke.
I believe there's an item that you can get even in like casual that reduces the cost of the special skill as well, so it just escalates even further.
Oopsies. This is why I picked up so many black figs. The fact that it regenerates me at low HP actually allows me to increase my damage significantly. So yeah, this fight's a lot of spam to win. Also, now I just picked up a skill which replenishes my my SP. The funny thing is, you're actually not like the actual best way to keep yourself locked onto this guy is to just not hold onto the joystick, as you can see by my hand here. Okay, that's the end of that. And I had just enough of my EXP bonus going into that I finished him before the I finished him before it ran out. So we have optimal levels for this fight. So this is Anima Ergastulum, the final boss of the game, because you know it's a JRPG. You kind of need to fight some vaguely god-resembling thing at the end of the game in many of them. Yeah, so just
We're going to finish this.
unfortunately, and this is a funny thing to say, but unfortunately we heal going into this, and we actually want to take damage going into the next phase. I don't want to take too much because then it can just be like really annoying, but I want to take like close to 80% of my max health bar. So I'm kind of looking for him to drop these like red stabs that kind of explode and just do a ton of damage. So, gotta take out all the components here. We not no luck today. Might be unfortunate. Might be an unfortunate run where you just don't get any stabs. Unlucky. Yeah, so everything here is going to take a lot longer. I'm going to see if he gives me something. Nope. The unfortunate thing too is boost actually heals you, so you don't want to like, you want to use your extra skill like instantly. Oh, okay. I was able to just face tank that and got a lot of the damage that I needed to take, so back up.
Oh, nice.
So, alright, so that's phase one where we take out all the lower components. Now we need to go break its face. Yeah,
The damage difference that we get from Red Cape is very,
yeah.
very considerable.
Oopsies. Going into this phase with no stamina, that's unfortunate. I accidentally double jumped my way on here. Alright, so I'm just gonna wait for that to replenish, and then I can activate Evil Eye, or I keep wanting to call it that, it's Third Eye, but I keep... So, just jump over this way. I know it's this one down here, and I need to hit all 6 of these. So, a lot of this fight is about managing stamina. That's not the right one. And then last one's going to be over here by default. And that is going to allow me to hit the boss's like main weak point. So it takes 2 of these combos. But yeah, just SP changes into boost meter, into SP, into boost meter, and it just makes this kind of stuff really spammable, because I think Ys 8 had like a problem with bosses being kind of health sponges and taking too long to kill on higher difficulties, so they supercharged your damage in this game, and I would argue too much.
We mustn't slow
Okay.
down now.
Up.
Jaddo, we're all counting on you.
Okay. Get over this way.
We'll never kill this thing just by throwing
So yeah, now he's just gonna
Must have a weakness somewhere.
now he's just gonna hit me with thunder a bunch.
We'll be able to see it.
Which one is it? That's that one. Okay. The thunder just loves to randomly hit you. Okay, so that hit 2 of them. That's very nice. Okay. Alright, and then... Now I just need to not take damage here. Okay, that's gonna give me what I need. Give me a couple seconds of mini crits. And that kills the boss, and that is the final boss. So, I did mention in the notes, flashing lights warning. It's not too bad, but, you know, just heads up, there's gonna be a bunch of glowing white here. But we got, like, just...
Been able to find it, haven't you?
Here we're just attacking an egg, and Adol is just reminiscing on all of his adventures that he's had in the past, just like a bunch of NPCs talk to him, so we're just gonna be here for like a minute. Cell, you got time to read off some stuff.
All right, I have a $15 donation here from Cloud Strife. Whatever. Thank you for that donation. That puts us now $10 away from getting that Vice Super Boss fight for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Please get that met. Vice is the main antagonist of Dirge of Cerberus. That is my favorite Final Fantasy game. I know that's a controversial opinion. I really want to see that met. $10 Canadian will get us there.
Alright, so I did shout out Zvire, do also want to shout out a few others.
We'll always
Shout outs to, I believe Lost 1002 was one of the like pioneers of the Japanese route of the game. And then also big shout outs to Mabo, who helped break a bunch of stuff. And we had to kind of like reverse engineer his findings and tricks to get this route like it is, but it made the route so much better. This run, like, at one point had like a trick that you needed like turbo basically if you wanted consistent like height from hovering.
Oh yeah.
That route was not great. Oh, by the way, so now we have to talk to a bunch of NPCs. Here's 2 Dogies. Here's 2 Parks because we're in like 2 different chapters at once. This is one of my favorites. Let's see if we got it. It's not the funnier one, but we do get 2 of them. Sometimes you'll see one sitting and the other standing, and it's great because it's just like, what is this homunculus looking thing? All right, so here we just have to talk to a bunch of NPCs that we met along our journey that was very abbreviated. One of my favorite lines in the game is like, on the way to the final dungeon, one of your party members who sadly doesn't join us in the run, which is a shame because I really like playing as White Cat in this game. She's like, we've been through a lot together, and it's like 19 minutes into the run. So, because our adventure is so truncated with the any% route. But yeah, we're just talking to a bunch of NPCs in town we've met along our journey who are all saying goodbyes, and we're going to go off to our next adventure. So once we get to the entrance and skip a couple scenes, that will be time. So very shortly. Alrighty, that is time. Sub 44. I mean, for how kind of like scuffed some of my inputs were, I'll take that. It's below estimate.
GG.
GG.
Alrighty. Thank you all for watching. Check out the rest of the marathon and the rest of, I guess, our little RPG limit break block. But that will do it for me. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Goskimo, for that fantastic run. That was so much fun. Such a broken run.